For the EFDD, Mr. Coburn.
Grazie, Presidente. Prime Minister Kariņš, my honourable friend Jean-Claude Juncker, my honourable opponent, ladies and gentlemen all, a Merry Easter, a Happy Easter to you all when it comes. Public outpouring of distress about the destruction of Notre Dame shows how deeply we care about the cultural and religious heritage of Europe. Any unity the continent of Europe has, based on its philosophical and religious heritage deriving from Roman law, Greek philosophy, Christian faith, and dare I say, British democracy, it's a more recent example. While it was drawing up the Constitution of Europe, later the Lisbon Treaty, which we didn't like very much, the EU rejected any reference to God or Christian religion in Europe. Well, this is something alien to the continent of Europe. The EU itself, with its project of aggressive secularism, as Roger Scruton called it, oikophobia, is the rejection of our own heritage and culture, which is the basis of our current cultural weakness and why many people throughout Europe and more rejecting the European Union. The European project is like a terrifying religious cult, something invented by Monsieur Robespierre or something of that ilk. Thank you very much, Madam. The Prime Minister, Mr. Kariņš, with all due respect, said Russia had something to do with Brexit. Sorry, sir. The British people who stood alone in 1940 against authoritarianism are quite capable of making up their own minds about Europe. What they don't want is bureaucratic authoritarianism from an unelected European bureaucracy. I mean, let's be honest, this Parliament is a bit of a eunuch. They want to be ruled by their own sovereign parliaments. At the moment, our own Parliament is dominated by an establishment which has been infiltrated over 30 years or more by members of the Euro-cult, who are preventing a simple Brexit. Something that could easily be done. We could have easily just said we're leaving WTO rules or give us a better deal. And if we didn't, we could have left in WTO rules. But the Euro-cultists decided otherwise, including, may I say, our own Prime Minister, Mrs. May, who has misled the country in many ways. Dreaming up lots of nonsense about unnecessary backstops in Ireland, which seem intended to break up the EU for daring to leave the Euro-cult. The establishment at Westminster are out of touch with their own voters, and this is seen increasingly to be the case. If the EU and its UK establishment allies force Mrs. May's grossly unfair and ludicrous deal down Britain's throats, which is actually worse than actually being in the European Union, to avoid a European election, which I think you're all trying to do at the moment, Mrs. May certainly is, you probably want to too, because it will be won by Mr. Farage's Brexit party. And if not, may I tell you, if you don't have that election, the following general election in Great Britain will be won by Mr. Farage's Brexit party. Evidently, we need to clean out the Euro-cultists out of the Parliament in Westminster to get a proper Brexit. I told Monsieur Barnier, though sadly he's not with us today, who I think is an excellent negotiator, I wish he was on our side, to his surprise, may I say, that the British Parliament cannot bind its successors. If you don't give us a fair deal, it won't stick, so you're wasting your time. However, the Euro-cult seems more important. It seems more important to the Euro-cultists to make sure that they get their cult together, that they keep the project going, than a profitable deal with Great Britain, which benefits the citizens of not only Europe but Great Britain. The European Union must govern by consent, ladies and gentlemen, not punishing like a modern inquisition those countries or individuals who do not share your faith. Learn from history, ladies and gentlemen, especially people in the Low Countries, Mr. Lambert, for example. Learn from history. The free thinkers of the Spanish Netherlands and the Low Countries overthrew the Inquisition. which was dominating Europe and stopping people thinking and acting for themselves. Their rebellion against Spanish Inquisition led to free-thinking democracies in the Low Countries and in the United Kingdom. Thank God for them. The free thinkers of today are what you call populists. Personally, I'd rather be a populist than an unpopulist, but there you are. What you are dismissing, what you dismissively describe as populists, will be elected shortly from all over Europe to this next parliament, and they will dominate it, ladies and gentlemen. They will dominate it. And they will change radically the EU, or they will break it. Bend with the wind or be crushed, I think is the thing you've got to think about. The EU is as much a threat to European democracy in the same way the Inquisition was in the 16th century to free thinking and democracy.
Keep going, David. Keep going. Keep going.
Prime Minister Kariņš said, we do not have to worry about migration, and that many people want to come to a stable, democratic continent. I don't blame them. If I were living in the third world or any other part of the world that wasn't Europe, I'd want to come here too. Who can blame those people? If I were in their position, I want that. But if the numbers change, the philosophy and the democratic nature of the European continent, that is neither in the interests of the people who live here or the people who are coming here. It would be a disaster. So the other thing they worry about is the crushing of their health service. So Europe, ladies and gentlemen, just finishing, madam, Europe can only survive by rule by consent, not the force they have used on the UK. You have frightened a lot of countries, but not in a good way. Thank you, Mr. President.